A real delight to introduce to the stage the Right Honourable Kemi Badenoch MP, the Secretary of State for Business.
Thank you, Justin. That was a wonderful introduction. And thank you also to Mike for inviting me to speak to you all. I've known him since I was a new MP, and he was giving me lots of lectures about the automotive sector. I don't think he ever realized that one day I would be doing this job. So I heard that you all had a wonderful parliamentary reception yesterday, and it went well. And Minister Nusgani told me, Secretary of State, they want a very long speech that they know about. They told me about a previous minister who came in, gave introductory remarks, and ran away. And they're hoping that you're going to be giving us a lot more than that. I'm really sorry. When I was 21, I was given very good advice on speeches by an 80-year-old keynote speaker who'd seen it all. And she said to me, be bold, be brief, be gone. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to live up to that mantra. I mean, I could read you a long speech. I could read you a long speech and tell you all about how the UK auto sector is achieving annual turnover of £70 billion. I could tell you that you added over £13 billion to the UK economy, that you invest £3 billion in R&D every year. But you know all that. So why do I want to just repeat the statistics that you all know? You know that today your sector supports 800,000 jobs. You know that 80% of UK-made vehicles are exported. And I know you know that the automotive industry is the UK's single biggest exporter of goods. So I could do a very long speech with all of the tractor statistics, but I think you want to hear something different. You want to know how the government is thinking about today's problems. You want to know what we are planning to do to make sure you have a business over the next decade and beyond. So I'm here to tell you what we're thinking, what we're planning, and what my department is all about. The Department for Business and Trade is a new department. It was formed in February. I used to be the Secretary of State for International Trade. Now I'm the Secretary of State for both business and trade. And one of the first things I did was try and speak to as many people across all the sectors as possible. And I met with many of your colleagues across the auto industry, and been listening to what you've been saying, what you want. We are a department that I believe fully engages with business. You said you didn't want to be passed from pillar to post, being told, oh, this is a treasury issue, sorry, this is a DFT issue, and so on. So we have learned. We are now the gateway. Whatever problems you have, bring them to us. We will try and help you navigate the convoluted system that is Whitehall. But we are also, which is what you asked for, a department that represents your interests across Whitehall. We are your champion at the cabinet table. That is my job. I know that people will ask about taxes and corporation tax. I'm not the Chancellor. I don't own tax policy, but I can make your case for you. I know you will want different types of regulations or new regulations coming in, old ones being removed and so on, which are within the Department for Transport's remit. It's my job to talk to them and say, well, here is what the auto sector is thinking. And I have an end-to-end view across all business, so I can really give a deep, comprehensive account, which I think will help influence the policies that they're making. But what is the government thinking? In our view, a successful UK economy relies on a successful auto industry on our shores. So we want to do everything we can to support you and help you thrive. We can't do this without you. We can't have economic growth without the auto sector. We can't have leveling up without the auto sector. And I think what has been so striking is what an extraordinary time it has been to be in your business. I think it's amazing that business has survived so many of these shocks, many of which we thought were once in a generation, and they just keep coming. I'm not even going to talk about the financial crisis and how it just changed things in 2008. You look at all of the decisions from coalition government to voting to leave the European Union, the hung parliament. All of the political turbulence has been happening at the same time as you've been saying, look at what's happening with our supply chains after COVID aftershocks, the rising energy and material costs because of the war in Ukraine. And very, very sadly, I think something that's most disheartening, so many countries turning inward and threatening all of the trade and commerce that relies on cross-border collaboration. And we are working on all of those, on all of those things. There's so much that we are trying to do to make sure that we can protect our economy and provide economic security, to the extent that we now have a minister solely responsible for economic security who's looking at these issues end to end. I know some of you have welcomed the government's ambition on the ZEV mandate. I know some of you have not, and this is a big concern. We are listening. I've spoken to my cabinet colleagues, and we are going to ensure that this is done in a way that is sustainable. For example, we completely understand the need to drive the EV charging infrastructure. We've got to move at a greater pace. We've got to stimulate that genuine customer demand. I assure you that my colleagues in DFT and in the Treasury have told me how they plan on achieving this. And I've also heard very loud and clear the issues on EU rules of origin. And I can assure, and the reason why I'm actually leaving early is because my lunch is with the EU ambassador, and I'm going to be talking to him about how we can work our way through these issues. Brexit was more traumatic, I think, for this sector than many others. But one of the things that I want you to know is that we have been working to make sure that we have close relationships with our EU counterparts. You would have seen all of the work that the Prime Minister has been doing, not just on the Windsor Framework. You look at the France summit that he had. We were at the OECD meeting with so many counterparts. And there is a lot of good work that is being done and will continue to be done so that we can solve all of the issues which you raise with us one by one. I'm also aware that the industry is concerned about labour shortages. And you would have heard Jeremy Hunt and Mel Stride, the Work and Pension Secretary of State, talking about ways to address the number of economically inactive people. It's grown by 500,000 since COVID. We need to get people back to work, and everyone in government is looking at the best ways to achieve this. I also hear a lot of concerns that we're falling behind on domestic battery production, yet the government has been focused on this for some time. Our APC, the Advanced Propulsion Centre, the ATF, Automotive Transformation Fund, they are positioning us, the UK, as one of the best places in the world to build zero-emission vehicles. And through the ATF, we enabled that Nissan Envision Hub, £1 billion worth in Sunderland, Ford's 380 million project at Halewood, and there's more investment coming down the horizon. It's one of the reasons why I'm traveling so much. I'm speaking to investors in countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel. They want to know how to invest in the UK. They want to know where to go. And it is the advanced manufacturing industries that I think are going to be their best bet. And we will go further, with more cutting-edge projects. We're trialing the world's most advanced bus service in Edinburgh. There's a lot of good stuff that's coming. I know the thing that is looming is the Inflation Reduction Act subsidies that are taking place in the US. We are not going to copy and paste exactly what is happening in another country and transplant it to the UK. We have to do what is right for our own economy. We have to do what's going to work well where we have comparative advantage. So we will come out with plans soon. But I want you to know, please stick with us. The reason why we're doing this is because we are thinking things through. The opposition will tell you that there's £28 billion for green subsidy that's just on the floor, and then they turn around realizing that all of these actions have reactions. We are thinking through what the likely consequences are going to be. How do we make sure that we fund things without driving inflationary pressures? How do we make sure that what we're doing is going to be sustainable for the future, not just a bung for now? And the other side of my brief helps in doing this and thinking about the long term. I was delighted to agree, in principle, our accession to CPTPP, the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership, in March. Many of you may not know exactly what the significance of this is going to be, but the Indo-Pacific is where the new middle class is coming from. We now have rules of origin regulations, once this is signed, that will help with many of the businesses that you have and the places that you're exporting to. Last month, we welcomed the entry into force of our deals with Australia and New Zealand. We're in negotiations with countries as diverse as Israel, Mexico, and the Gulf states. So I want to encourage you to take full advantage of these opportunities. There is so much that we can do. I use the analogy of the motorway. A trade agreement is a motorway. It's the cars that go back and forth on it that make the difference. And those cars, sorry, I'm using an auto pun, I don't mean to, those cars are exports and investment. That's what's really going to drive growth. It is not the signing of the agreement, it's the utilization. And FTA utilization is something that my department is going to be focused on going forwards as much as possible. So I hope that this shows that we are aware of the issues occupying the minds of many of you in this room. I'm certainly aware. But what we are going to do about it is what I wanted to let you know. In the next month, I will be setting out what the long-term plan for advanced manufacturing, including the automotive industry in particular, is going to be. How do we transition to electric and automated vehicles? As I said, we are spending a lot of time developing it because it needs to land well. I look forward to all of the suggestions that you can give before that to make sure that it does land well. Because when it does, there will be many people who will ask why we're doing all of this for your sector and not theirs. We need you to speak up and support government and explain why it's absolutely critical that we do what we are doing. So we will support you, as we have to date, but in a way that is affordable and sensible and plays to the strengths of one of the UK's most successful and enduring industries. Britain led the world in the first industrial revolution, and the next one is happening as we speak. It is green, it's autonomous, and it's powered by ingenuity and design. In short, it's ready-made for our country to take advantage. So I know all of you have what it takes to seize these opportunities. It's my job to make sure that you have the right track ahead of you as we head into this exciting future for the automotive industry. So I look forward to working with you. My door is always open, as is my department's. We want to hear from you. Thank you.